Hi, I'm Andrea Useem, Associate Editor for DevX Impact. We're talking again with Michael Igoe, our Global Development Reporter, who's been in New York covering the Social Good Summit. So, Michael, the summit just wrapped up yesterday. What were some of the key takeaways for you?
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, the summit wrapped up yesterday after 3 full days of events. I think the biggest takeaway was that this is a summit, an event, a gathering of people that's just gained tremendous momentum in the last few years. People were talking about how 10 years ago this sort of thing just didn't happen with this number of people and this amount of attention coming together at the same time. As sort of a side event to the UN General Assembly. I think what it reflects is really a broadening of the conversation around international development planning, and just a greater sense that leaders and organizations are trying to draw in youth participants to sort of build the groundswell of support that can inform sort of higher level global policy decisions, and then also to help steer those conversations. A lot of this summit was about how to sort of effectively use technology to shape conversations about international development, or to build a following for organizations or for certain development or sustainability goals. So a lot of this, I think, was about communication. It was about what makes a message go viral, what makes a message appeal to a broad number of people, and especially young people. And I think the popularity of this summit and the notoriety that it's begun to receive is really a reflection of maybe a generational change in international development, and hopefully more broad-based youth participation in some of these critical questions.
Thanks, Michael. What were some of the interesting innovations around technology and involving young people in the development conversation? What were some of the exciting things that you heard about while you were there?
Great. Yeah, so, obviously, since this summit is really kind of a centerpiece event for this idea of bringing technology and development into the same room, a lot of entrepreneurs used the Social Good Summit as sort of a platform to launch new initiatives. One in particular, causes.com, announced a new platform. Primarily, they used to be basically an offshoot or a side app for Facebook. And so they would allow people to click and support causes, and maybe make one-click donations to causes. Now they're trying to build out a much more sort of robust social ecosystem of activism. So you'll be able to, build your profile for your cause as an activist, connect with potential sort of followers or supporters of whatever movement you're supporting, and they're really trying to turn that, I think, into much more of sort of a networking and conversation enabling platform. So I guess really what it is I think we're starting to see a movement from technologies that allow you to sort of show your support by clicking on something, to technologies that allow you to maybe develop a much more robust conversation about whatever it is that you're trying to build support for. So maybe a little more of a substantial use of technology for international development.
Great. And did you get a sense that the adults across town at the UN General Assembly are listening, or is there a sense that this is, yeah, these are fun things for young people and they can have their say, but is there a sense that these technologies and the communities they're enabling are going to have a substantial impact in the way development actually happens?
It's a great question. I think something that I heard expressed several times is that to be an international development policymaker, to be a high-level planner now, requires that you do engage with young people who can help you get your message out and make sure that that message reaches as many people as possible. So whether the conversations at the Social Good Summit were directly informing the conversations at the UN General Assembly, I'm not sure. But certainly I think the leaders at the UN General Assembly recognize that the young people and the activists who are gathering a little further uptown in New York are the ones who are ultimately going to be sort of repackaging their message and broadcasting it to a wider number of people. So I think, it's an interaction that's taking place increasingly, and one that high-level policymakers are starting to recognize as more and more important. The other thing is that, sort of the rock stars of the Social Good Summit, to me, seemed to be those very, recognizable figures who are able both to connect at the high-level policy discussions and then also to a wide number of people on the ground. So there are people like, Al Gore or Richard Branson, who are able to effectively sort of channel the conversation in certain ways and make effective use of technology to do that. So that was interesting to see, who the participants at the Social Good Summit see as today's international development leaders. Increasingly, they're people, I think, who are able to effectively communicate messages through technology.
And just a last question, Michael. Did you see anyone there at the Social Good Summit who you would describe as a future leader, an up-and-coming leader?
Yes, certainly. Leader might even be understating it. By far the most emotional presentation at the summit was from Malala Yousafzai, who has recently spoken at the United Nations, and really has become, an incredibly leading figure for girls' education, and she's 16 years old. It's someone who, has the wisdom to speak in ways that really draw people in, and I think, she was definitely the rock star of the summit. So many
Great.
more good things to come from her for sure.
Wonderful. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your hard work for us in New York, and we will see you back in Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Andrea.